Tech News Weekly is sponsored by Hover.com. Domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, to Tech News Weekly. I'm your host, Andrew Zarin, and of course, I am joined by two people today. Normally two people. I'm joined by Sunkast, as I am each and every week. How you doing, Sunkast?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. And Erik Lanigan. How you doing, Erik?
I'm good. How's it going?
You know, right before the show, we were talking about Mountain Lion, and I was asking if any of you have upgraded to Mountain Lion, and the soundboard software that we use on our Mac, it's not compatible with Mountain Lion, and it crashed on me about 5 times.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So that's not good.
Yeah,
Good
was it a
old
surprise?
Apple.
Yeah.
Was it a surprise deal? Like when I rebooted after the installation, it said, "Surprise! A couple of your applications have been moved to an incompatible applications folder. You can no longer use them."
I had no idea. Is that what it did?
Yeah, it moved, and I can't get an explanation for this, but Parallels version 6 is what I have. That I have a copy of XP that I sometimes use, or I guess Windows 7 too. I can't run it anymore. And I didn't want to pay $50 for the version 7 upgrade because I know version 8 is going to come out later this year. So I was just waiting on that one. And now they just told me that I can't use it anymore. And they actually moved it to a folder and will not let the application launch.
Wow, that's nutty. What if you did like a total clean install?
Well, then you just wouldn't have that application installed. Is that what you mean?
No. Like if you did a clean install, would there be a workaround it at all? But you did an upgrade.
No, it's not that. There's some incompatibility, but they won't say what it is. But there's something clearly that both Apple and Parallels knew about. It's a conspiracy. I sent them an angry letter.
Did you?
I did. I sent them an angry comment. I don't know if they're going to post it on their blog post. But because the way they handled it, I think, was wrong. Because they took someone's post who wrote a blog post saying how it's clearly just a way to get $50 more from people who already evaluated version 7 and said, well, this isn't, I hardly use anyway. I'm not going to buy this. And so instead, they posted a blog post saying, "Congratulations, hooray! Version 7 works on Mountain Lion. Upgrade now." It's like, well, that's and the guy whose post they were referring to, and then even cited, had like he'd screen captured a support documentation showing that a few months ago, Mountain Lion support was planned for version 6. So I've only had the software for like a year, and now it's broken.
Now it's broken, and they're not gonna fix it.
That's right.
It's a little deceptive.
Yeah.
I mean, think about 50. I mean, I'm used to this, right? Because usually this happens a lot. Whenever there's a big Mac OS 10 update, a lot of programs, Tech Tool, Disk Warrior, all the little things that you'd never buy come out of the woodworks to demand an upgrade price because they haven't changed any features in 10 years or whatever.
Well, I know from Leopard to Snow Leopard, that was a big problem.
Yeah, well, that's what makes this upsetting, though, because now Apple's gone to a yearly release cycle of a $20, basically a service pack update. So, you can't be charging $20 for the new OS and then all the utility companies like of Disk Warrior and Tech Tool and Parallels expect everyone to then pay $50 for theirs, $100 for theirs, $120 for theirs for the upgrade.
Yeah.
It's a $20 upgrade.
That's just like Adobe charging $1,500 for Photoshop when you're paying only $150 for the operating system for Windows.
Yeah. It's actually very interesting. It's a very skewed price point, if you look at it. So Mountain Lion's out this week, 10.8. I did a clean install, put it on a flash drive, wiped everything out, and reinstalled it. So far, so good.
Because you tried the beta preview that they had out, and you did an upgrade, and you said it was just awful to use.
It would not work. I had to actually downgrade. I did an upgrade from Lion to Mountain Lion with the beta, the last beta, which is the same build. It has the same build number, so nothing is different. When I did my upgrade, it was awful. Afterwards, everything kept crashing. Firefox wouldn't load. Chrome wouldn't load. And when I did the clean install, everything was fine. So I'm surprised that not so many other people have experienced the same problems. Erik, have you noticed any applications crashing because of the upgrade?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't really tested a whole lot. I haven't really put it through its paces yet. But I haven't noted. I mean, even right now, I've got Wirecast going, which is an older version, hasn't been updated in a while. Skype, I never updated. The only thing I've had a problem with was Parallel 6. Everything else seems to run fine.
Just now the soundboard software is not working. But what do you like? Do you like it? Is it?
No.
It's not a bit. You don't.
Well, it's nothing that I'm interested in. I mean, I've been waiting for years. I think the Finder needs numerous usability updates and feature enhancements. I think that ridiculous QuickTime 10, I still have to, as a video editor, any video editor still has to use QuickTime version 7, circa 2005, because they still haven't updated QuickTime 10.0. I think it's now up to like 10.3, but not a new feature's been added. It still doesn't open half the stuff it used to, can't do half of what it did. There's a lot of that. I mean, Notification Center, give me a break.
It doesn't. You know what's fascinating about it? It doesn't really work as well.
What, Notification Center?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a weird issue with that.
It's not very iOS-like. You know, they tried to say how it's so iOS-like. It's really not.
Yeah, and I've got to dig into this more deeply, but I've got what I think is the exact same preferences configured on my laptop and my desktop machine. And for some reason, the desktop shows me new mail messages. The laptop doesn't. The desktop shows me new Twitter message, or the laptop shows me Twitter messages. The desktop doesn't, but they're configured exactly the same way. So I don't know what the deal is.
I'll tell you what I do like about the notification. I just noticed that yesterday, and I don't know if this is the Apple mentality versus the Microsoft mentality. They turn notifications off if you're mirroring your monitor. So if you're using a secondary monitor to mirror what you see on your screen, it turns notifications off, and you could turn it on if you want. But there's a little switch that says you're mirroring now. You could turn it off because they assume that if you're mirroring, you're probably watching a movie, and the last thing you want to do is have a pop-up notification come up on your screen.
Yeah, or something private just come across.
Or something private come across. And I'm like, you know what? That's a lot of thought that's put into that.
Yeah.
And I rarely do this. I really, defend. Like, I'm not an Apple guy. I'm not a Microsoft guy. I kind of play it down the middle. But I was really surprised when I saw that. And I thought to myself, would Microsoft add this feature? Probably not. Just the amount of thought that goes into it. So I found that fascinating. But it's all right. I mean, no major speed increases. They didn't really change anything with the operating system. Minor tweaks here and there. I know they say like over 200 changes, but they're all minor changes. And I guess this is the Apple release cycle now. Every year they're going to do small changes. Do you think we're going to see a big OS 11 release? Or do you think they're just going to do these small little updates?
That's a good question. I mean, that's been what's behind that door. I think has been the question since 2001 when they first called Mac OS 10 10.0 and then 10.3 and 10.4. So we've gone for 10, almost, what is it? We've now gone over 10 years. We're like 12 years now in the 10.x. Yeah. So will there be an 11 or will they do some kind of weird iOS hybrid and totally change the whole name and the whole, and really unify those two operating systems? I don't know.
John, do you think that if Microsoft kind of stuck to that same mindset, they would have been in better hands right now? Because I just read an article, I believe it was from the Blizzard guys, and they were saying how Windows 8 is just, it's catastrophic what it's going to do to PC users.
Well, see, Microsoft is its own company. They do things such a different way. And you could actually make the argument now with the release of Windows 8, whether or not they're going to take an Apple-style approach to updating Windows 8 in the same manner, where instead of doing these big updates, it's just going to be more like service packs. Whether or not Microsoft would do something like that, I think they could, definitely with Windows 8. It's just weird that they haven't done this before, in the sense that they've done it before, but then they didn't, and now they're doing it again almost with Windows 8 once they start doing Windows 8, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
No, it does. I think they're going to have to stick to this model. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to charge $20 per little update. I think the Apple users are a little bit more accustomed to this, while the Microsoft guys want an up big change every couple of years. But after who knows what's going to happen after Windows 8, because it's 50-50 right now on the success of this.
I absolutely agree with that. It's definitely 50-50 because nobody knows exact. I mean, we've had all these previews and everything. We've had all these videos and everything out there about Windows 8, all this information. But until it's in consumers' hands, and it's out there for a good 6 months, I don't think anybody's really going to know.
Hey, since we're talking about Windows 8, there was a leak. I don't know if you guys saw this. I think Sunkast did. I don't know about you, Eric, but there was a leak of the pricing structure for the Windows Surface, the RT version, the Microsoft Surface.
Oh, on that Dutch website?
And the Dutch website, and it was $1,000.
Yeah, I don't think they know what they're talking about, though, because hasn't Microsoft said they're only going to sell it through Microsoft.com and Microsoft-owned retail stores? So, I mean, a third party wouldn't have no access to it even when it launches, let alone now.
That's the plan for in the States. I don't know outside of the country how they're going to do that.
My guess, I mean, Kindle Fire, you still can't get outside the United States. They do that with a lot of products. My guess is that they would. Yeah, I think if they really are planning a global release at the same time, which I doubt, it probably will be the U.S. first, because that's just how companies tend to do that with tablets and new operating systems and new ecosystems. I don't think they would have given some random company online, some weird shady third-party reseller, the first dibs.
Unless the other thing was that this company could be potentially hoping that it's going to be about $499, so they're going to double the price.
Well, it's going to be interesting because when Microsoft has been trying to make Windows 8 a more economical solution to upgrade and purchase when it comes out.
And this breaks that entire mindset.
Right. And the fact that, in the sense that people are going to be apprehensive about using Windows 8 to begin with. So if they're charging $1,000 for a tablet, the tablet market just is not there where you can command $1,000 for a tablet, especially one that has a new operating system that people are going to be unfamiliar with.
Yeah, no, I think you could though. Actually, I think their Intel version that has full backwards compatibility with every Windows 7 piece of software, Win32, all that stuff. Anything that is an x86 based processor, which they already said there's going to be two distinct Surface units of things called this Microsoft Surface. One is based on ARM and runs only WinRT and only ARM-based, ARM-compiled applications. And the other one is going to be basically a full Windows PC laptop in the traditional sense. So if you imagine that Intel-based laptop is a laptop, as we're used to, but then has all this expensive touch and Surface-based stuff added on top of it, and all this new high technology. And because they're targeting businesses and enterprise, they might get the cost of that one over $1,000. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't either.
But for the ARM one, where it's coming in with basically no software and no existing ecosystem, they have to come in at or below $499, at or below that base iPad price, or else they're just simply not serious about getting into that business.
Eric, have you you didn't get the Nexus, did you?
No. Have you gotten yours?
Yeah, I got mine right here.
How do you like it?
I absolutely love it. I have not used my iPad since getting it.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife has the iPad, and I've been using this exclusively, and it doesn't do everything that the iPad does, obviously. It's not the iPad. The smaller screen, if you're used to the iPad, it's a little difficult, but you get used to this thing really quickly, much quicker than I did with the Kindle Fire. I absolutely hated the Kindle Fire, and I had wrote off 7-inch tablets as an entire category because I hated the Kindle Fire. This device is unbelievable.
But then again, the Nexus 7 is a pure Android device.
It is. And they got the operating system done right.
So I'm curious, what do you see that's the big difference between this and the Kindle Fire? Because it's the same screen size. Is it like screen quality? Is it fluidity of animations? Is it processor speed? App compatibility? What stuff? Or what do you like so much better than the Fire?
Well, it's the new version of Android is much better. They've really tied a lot of these loose ends, and they've gotten a lot more streamlined. And the butter thing that they're talking about, where it just brings fluidness to the operating system, really
Hearing
did.
You say butter, it's just weird.
I know it's a stupid name, but they've really it's really made the overall experience much better than it was with even Ice Cream Sandwich. And Ice Cream Sandwich was a big leap over Gingerbread, whatever was on their phone. I like it so much I put it on my phone. I rooted my phone, and now I'm running the same thing. I'm running Jelly Bean on my phone, and the phone is a lot better, and it works much better too. So the operating system is by far much better than Ice Cream Sandwich. But how long will it take them to deploy this on other tablets? How long will it take them to deploy this on other phones? That's the big problem that Android faces.
Yeah, and kind of weird to think about. I mean, I don't think most customers who don't follow this stuff would have any idea that two identically priced tablets, the Nexus 7 and the Kindle Fire, one of them comes with the brand new cutting edge OS with all kinds of great features, and the other one is like 4 years old. How old is 2.2? Isn't that what comes on the Kindle Fire?
2.3.
2.3.
So, I mean, you're talking about 2 years old. It's a 2-year-old operating system.
Yeah.
So
what is the version number for Jelly Bean? It's 4.2?
4.1.1, right?
Something like that.
4.1? Okay.
4.1? Yeah, 4.1.
But and you can imagine though that by the time that other manufacturers get around to rolling this version out, I mean, there's a significant software and feature fragmentation with some of these Android tablets that are being sold at the same time.
Well, see, that's the problem with this. When you're talking about fragmentation, this is the perfect example of how bad fragmentation is. There are devices being sold right now, like you said, that's priced at a much higher rate than this device, and they're running a much older operating system. So the consumer does not know this. So my experience and your experience are going to be totally different on a device with the same exact specs. The only difference is the operating system.
And it's going to cause a problem because you're going to have people saying, "Oh, Android sucks. I hate this," and someone's like, "What are you talking about? It scrolls like butter."
I'll take
They're two different Android.
I'm a
worlds.
little disappointed that Amazon hasn't come out with an update for the Kindle Fire yet. I mean, even the ice cream sandwich would be pretty nice.
Well, they did no updates, right? They only did.
No, it's still running Gingerbread 2.3.
Well, I think that's their point. I think the thing about that device and the reason why it's not going to be successful is that they're banking on their UI. They're not banking on the back end. The back end is totally overhauled with all the Amazon stuff, and they've tweaked the operating system, but it still
runs like crap.
It still runs like crap. That's the problem.
By back end, do you mean their servers and cloud architecture? Or do you mean the operating system?
The operating system, the code in the back. I know they tweak that, but it's still not anywhere near what this device is. But who knows what's going to happen in another year? The next Google operating system that they release may be 1,000 times better than this one. That's the thing. There's no incremental updates for this thing. It's night and day from operating system to operating system.
But you figure they're going to have a whole new line of Kindle Fires by Christmas time for that buying season? I think they will.
They're going to have to, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, they're going to do what is the trend, what's been common with Android tablets and phones, which is to just abandon the users who bought that one. I doubt we're going to see an update to really make that thing. They're not going to bring up the Jelly Bean, I would imagine. They're probably stuck with the 2.0 that came with it. I mean, that's kind of how Android devices have been, which is just bizarre because Apple usually is the ones who try to forcibly obsolete their products faster than anyone. And yet in the smartphone mobile OS market, they've maintained backwards compatibility and bringing their old users up forward more than anyone else. It's kind of bizarre.
Right. Why would you want to buy a device that is going to be essentially obsolete and unsupported a year later?
And let me ask you this, Sunkast. Let me ask you this before we go to the next subject. You tried to root the thing and put a different operating system, right?
Oh, I've done it multiple times.
And what happened?
You know what? There's issues with the Kindle Fire itself, hardware issues that make it somewhat difficult at times to recover from it. Because it has the charging issue, so if you're not careful, if your Kindle Fire is not charged, it can really screw up your device and almost kill it, almost make it a brick.
With the Kindle stuff or without the Kindle stuff?
Both.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. But I'm just not a big fan of ROMs in general. I just don't find that, they're until they've actually been tested a million times, they're just going to be buggy, and they're just not going to offer all the features and stability that I would look for.
No, I agree with you, and I'm so surprised how stable this update is. The ROM is on my phone. I guess this is the raw Verizon ROM that has not been released yet. That's on the phone now, and everything works great. So I'm actually blown away, and it's made my phone much easier to use. I could actually make a phone call now with it, which helps. I want to move on to the Google story. Google launches Kansas City FiberNet, introducing Google Fiber TV.
This is awesome.
This is unbelievable. Google launches a 1 gigabit per second symmetrical fiber line. That means 1 gigabit up, 1 gigabit down in Kansas City for $70 a month. Now, there's a $300 construction fee, that Google is waiving currently. Google has also launched a Google Fiber TV service that for $120 will include internet and television and most major channels. Disney and Turner are still missing. Those are the two.
Time Warner.
Time Warner. What are Time Warner channels?
Like AMC, I think.
Okay. With DVR, and that could record up to 8 channels at once, including a 1 terabyte cloud storage and an Android app. This is mind-blowing how this company, Google's able to do this. Now, they're losing money on this. 100%. And this is a showpiece for them. This is just them saying, look at what we could do if we wanted to. For $120, you're getting TV.
Do you think?
Internet,
no, let me ask you
internet.
though. This is fantastic. But people are saying, "Oh, well, there's a steep $300 construction fee." Even if that was not waived, don't you think that a one-time $300 fee for constructing the fiber to the home would be worth it for
yes,
1
because you know why?
second up and down?
I'll tell you, one of my friends, his company just recently got a fiber line put into their office building. Mm-hmm. And they charge him about $5,000 to run the line.
I'd gladly pay $300 to have fiber run to my home.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be, if you're a homeowner, it'd be a better investment than solar panels or I mean, anything you could buy for $300.
I mean, but a gigabit symmetrical, they're pulling in.
It's insane.
I mean,
that's insane. Now, Andrew, what made you say that they're losing money? Are you guessing? Because I think that they're. I mean, what did they say that publicly?
No, I'm assuming. I'm assuming that they're losing money.
But see, yeah,
I would say.
Hold on. Go ahead, Eric.
I would say it's. I would consider that more of like an R&D cost. I mean, it's an experiment. But I mean, if they're charging customers $300 to build it out, and I don't know, maybe I would imagine that they're coming in at least at cost, if not, using this as an experiment, building up their products to then do a larger rollout. But I say, go for it, Google. I applaud them. Show those monopoly companies that these services do not cost as much as we're forced to pay because we have no competition. Yay, Google.
Well, that's one of the main reasons.
Go ahead, Sunkast.
That's one of the main reasons that Google is doing this, is that they're doing this, collecting all the data and everything, and telling all these other cable operators and internet companies that, yes, you can build these high-tech networks for very cheap and not have to charge an outrageous number for these services. You can do a 1 gigabyte per second network up and down symmetrically without a whole lot of costs involved if you build these new awesome networks. You don't have to rely on this old technology, these old networks where you have to do all these sort of weird things, and it just becomes cost intensive.
Well, do you think they're able to do it because they're building the network from the ground up rather than adding and adding and adding? Like
that is part of. I think that is part of one of the reasons, is that it's all new infrastructure.
Actually, I don't think that. I think that's been sort of a lie that the big telcos have told us, because if you think about it, you think the telephone lines that were installed in the late 1800s are a feature, or rather are a liability do you think they haven't already paid for themselves many times over? They could rip them out and start from scratch at the same cost that Google is. I think saying that we have to upgrade the existing infrastructure, I don't really think that costs significantly more than building it out to begin with.
Well, when Verizon was deploying their fiber network here, they were very aggressive with the deployment. And in about 3 years, they deployed from the end of Long Island all the way to Manhattan. I mean, they've gone straight. Now, there are pockets that they haven't deployed, but it was so aggressive and fast where it was just one town after another every week they were getting out there. Obviously, they've gone into cahoots with the cable industry now, and they're not further deploying Fios, and that's a whole separate issue. But the deployment method is very fast, and I was talking to a rep, and they said, we need to get rid of the copper lines because it costs us more money to maintain these things. Mm-hmm. So they don't want the copper lines anymore. They're happy to see it go, but you're right. I think you're right. I think the fact that they've told us it's easier, because it's new infrastructure, it's easier to do that. But the other issue is I think Verizon, like a company like Verizon, has to still support the old infrastructure along with the new one. And I think that's how they justify the rates that they charge you.
Look at MC Phillips in the chat room says that he lives in one of those areas where a law was passed in his state. He says, written by Time Warner, and I've heard of this, to make it illegal for a municipality to build their own internet system and operate their own fiber. You've got other examples like Chattanooga got together. They obviously don't have a law like this. They built a fiber system. I think it was like a gigabit or super fast like Google is doing. And it's been a huge booming success for their area. I mean, I really think that if Google takes it on themselves as sort of a pro bono public service ambitious effort to go through and really, fight these guys in court if they have to, and really fight for the right to have a new internet system that is cheaper. I mean, because bandwidth is the biggest thing holding back the future, really.
And it's a big scam. I mean, the whole thing that, bandwidth costs so much is a big scam. It doesn't cost them to give you more bandwidth.
Right.
There's no
exactly.
bandwidth meter. Sunkast has Comcast. Comcast is not sitting there saying, "Uh-oh, Sunkast needs, 2 megabits up. The rate's going up," and you see like a little meter go up. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't cost them more to give you more.
Right. And they just keep squeezing tighter and tighter. I mean, look at the prices just went up for AT&T's wireless service. I mean, obviously wireless is a little bit different, but they do the exact same thing on their wireline broadband wing of their business.
Now,
I looked just this week at upgrading my internet to a faster tier, and it's going to cost me about $25 more to upgrade to the faster tier.
And it's not much.
It's not much at all.
If you think of what kind of things you'd like to do in the future world that involve computers, the biggest obstacle is the freaking bandwidth. What was I going to say? Something.
Well, but here's the thing. I'll give you a perfect example. I would not be able to do what I'm doing if it wasn't for bandwidth. I'm lucky enough to have FiOS, and I have 150 by 75 megabit up, speeds, and I have 2 FiOS lines. But that's such an anomaly now in this country with bandwidth.
Right. Oh, what I was going to say was, you look at the power of our smartphones now is equal to the power of some of the desktop machines we still use today that many people still use as their primary machine.
Well, the phones are faster than what we went to space with for the first space shuttle.
Oh, by orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to the first men, it was like cavemen who went to the moon. If you actually look at what kind of technology they had with them, that mapped out and did the calculations and ran the instruments that flew them to the moon and back, landed the thing, brought them back. I mean, it's insane how primitive. It was like what we have now in a single or less than a single iPhone app.
Yeah.
So my point is the hardware has been more than available for all these years now. We have cheap, you can get a gigahertz processor for like a penny, and the thing holding it back is the bandwidth. We've got the hard drives to store. We've got all this stuff is there. The CPUs are there. Moore's Law has had its effect. We just have to have bigger pipes connecting one another and connecting us to services that we might eventually use. And I applaud Google for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that was another point that Google brought up in an article that they were talking about, is that we've had this Moore's Law where, every year speeds double for our computers, but that hasn't been the case when it comes to internet speeds. We saw that in the early days with the modems, like 14K, 28K, 56K, doubling in that sorts. But now it's kind of like, okay, now nobody's upgrading their internet speeds anymore.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you think this is a realistic thing Google is doing? Do you see this being deployed nationally? And if so, how long? How long till you see the country get wired with Google Fiber?
No, I don't see it, unfortunately. I don't think they can. I mean, like MC Phillips in the chat room, I mean, there are actually laws that I mean, people don't realize just how ridiculous this is, that folks like Time Warner and Comcast have literally written state legislatures saying you cannot start anything to compete with them. I mean, that's not even how capitalism is supposed to work. It's not how the economy is supposed to work. And yet it's there. It's just this little faction holding back the highest technology areas of the internet. So I really see this going one of two ways. It could just be this little experiment that is allowed to languish and never really grows out of Kansas City and just becomes nothing because Google cuts a deal with those companies for content purposes for selling their content, or they partner with them in the wireless space, or they do something slimy like that like, oh, we don't care anymore because now we're friends with them, like Verizon Fios did with Comcast and the wireline cable guys.
That's so disappointing.
It was extremely disappointing because I really thought Fios was going to change all of this.
Yeah.
It was so aggressive, and they just
And they divided up their territory like mafia heads, and they said, "Well, you take wireline, and we'll sell our wireless customers your wireline service, and you do the same for us. They go into Verizon Wireless store, and you've got Comcast ads right there, and Time Warner. You can sign up for what is available in your local area, and vice versa. And they're investigating that now, which is important. They should, yeah, so they could just say forget it, and that would be bad for consumers and everybody. But what I really hope they do is they really aggressively and litigiously try to roll this out, and it's gonna be more court. I mean, it could be 20 years of court battles, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's not going to be all of a sudden Google's available in your neighborhood. That won't happen, unfortunately.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. How long did it take here in New York City, for example? It took us 20 years, more, 25 years to get a competitor in. Time Warner Cable was the only one in this area. Now, you have other areas where it's Comcast, a very small pocket of the Bronx has Comcast, no Time Warner, and some apartment buildings have RCN. But for the most part, it's saturated with Time Warner. It took us 25 years to get Verizon to be able to come and compete. And it might take another 25 years to have another company come and compete, which is it's sad. And that's why.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but I mean, it's obvious that the technology is there for us to do these sort of things. It's just that nobody's implementing this technology.
Well, I think that nobody wants to because they don't have to. When there's no competition, there's no reason to develop competition. I'll tell you one thing. Verizon was very aggressive. Now they stopped with the cable deployment. They're not deploying any more high-def channels. Why? Because why does it matter at this point? They have a deal with Time Warner, so it makes no difference. They don't care.
By the way, I should say there is a precedent for Google first being a champion for the internet and then laying down arms when they needed a content deal. That's what they did with Verizon. Remember, Google was very pro net neutrality. They didn't like what the carriers were doing, the wireless carriers, and how they could discriminate and charge so much for bandwidth. But then when they wanted their Android phone to have a great sponsor, which was Verizon in the earliest days of the Droid, back before Verizon had the iPhone. Remember, they were the biggest pushers of the Android platform. And they ended up writing a joint paper with Verizon saying, hey, you know what? We don't need net neutrality on wireless, which of course was BS. So Google has done that before.
That you bring that up because just this week, Google, eBay, Facebook, and Amazon have formed their own lobbying group where they're going to go and lobby Washington for this net neutrality and net regulation stuff.
How's that going to work? What are they hoping to do?
Oh, what they're saying is the country's top internet companies have formed a lobbying group to strengthen the industry's voice in Washington when it comes to internet regulation. The group is appointed by Michael Beckerman as the CEO, which is the former deputy staff director to the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees telecommunications and internet policy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with this lobbying group. Are they going to do that to screw over people or?
Right.
It's one of those things that's kind of scary to think about the kind of power that these people can have and the influence that they can use.
Yeah.
It is possible to lobby for a common good, but it very rarely happens. The companies, they usually, even when it's someone like Google, they end up going with their Washington lobbyists and lobbying for policies that favor them exclusively against all competitors, as opposed to, favoring the internet as a whole, which would rise all boats.
All right, to move on to something else. I'm getting depressed again.
There's no hope.
There's no hope. It's over.
All I know is that I'm moving to Kansas City.
Yeah, you want to go, huh?
Oh, my God. Do you know how much easier it would be for me to get work done for GFQ?
Oh, it'd be much easier. Kind of speed? It'd be much easier. God. I'd actually be jealous of you. Microsoft launches Windows 8 on October 26th for new and upgrade customers. In my opinion, they're missing. They're totally dropping the ball again on this one. Way too late of a release. They're entering the fourth quarter for holiday sales. They're missing back to school. There's going to be none of these tablets for back to school and no Windows 8 computers but for back to school. They're going into fourth quarter. They're going to be competing with a potential new iPhone and the new iPad, potentially, along with everything else happening on the market. Bad timing on their behalf? What do you think, Sunkast?
Hold on.
Sunkast is fixing something. How about you, Eric? What do you think? Bad time?
Not really. I think as far as sales to schools go, I don't think schools would have upgraded if it was like a month sooner. I think there's still any kind of big corporate rollout like schools and enterprise, I think is always going to take some time to work out the bugs and make sure it's the product that people are ready to use. So I think for the consumer market, for getting some tablets into the Christmas tree, that's going to be fine. But I don't think they're really losing that big of an educational market as far as the new Windows 8 platform goes.
I'm not happy about this. I really, the closer we're getting to this and the more, it was pretty positive. I mean, I saw some negative stuff, but it was fairly positive. People saying, this is pretty cool. It might change the way computers work. But now we're getting more and more of these, companies being vocal and saying, wow, this may be a catastrophe. This may be.
Of course, it's going to be a catastrophe for companies because they're into all these legacy applications, and Windows 8 drastically changes the way you use these legacy applications. Yeah, sure, they have this desktop mode, but the fact is that Microsoft wants to move everybody to these Metro apps, and that's almost kind of like a Band-Aid for these companies that use these 32-bit applications versus Metro. So
yeah, so they're debuting, they're unveiling or releasing October 26th.
It's basically 3 years to the date that they released Windows 7.
Yeah, but you know what was interesting about Windows 7? We're talking about scattered. We're talking about, with Android, what's going to happen if people hate this operating system and the next one they release is going to have, the Metro theme again too. So now we're going to have 3 operating systems and it's going to be extremely scattered.
I think what you said, it might have the new one might have like Windows 9 might also have Metro, or it might totally throw Metro away and totally redesign it and claim that now they have Windows 9. Now we've really figured out the interface. I mean, because that's what they've said with 8, right? Every version of Windows, Vista was hailed as this big accomplishment in user interface design. Windows 7, forget Vista. This is how a computer is supposed to work. Windows 8, forget Windows 7. We don't know what we were thinking back then. This is how a computer is supposed to look. So what's stopping them? I mean, it seems almost inevitable that they'll say the same thing about Windows 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
No consistency.
I agree. I mean, like I've always said, is Windows Vista in the beginning was not a very popular operating system. There was a lot of problems with it. Yeah, you can attribute some of that to hardware, but at the same time, I think you're looking at parallels to when we had Windows Vista with Windows 8. I think it's a very similar path that they're taking in the fact that you're going to have similar situations, and I'm not sure that Microsoft has necessarily learned from these issues that they had with Windows Vista. I think that we're going to repeat some of the same issues that we had with Windows Vista with Windows 8.
I think it's going to be even worse. I think with Windows Vista, it was still a familiar look and feel.
Sure.
I think people knew what they were getting. I think this is going to be even worse. I think people are going to buy this thing and not know what the hell's going on, and they're going to say, "Where's my start menu?" and they're going to freak out and lose their minds.
I agree, but I think. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I agree. I mean, personally, I could care less about Windows 8. It doesn't do anything for me, the whole Metro thing. And I can see that being great for a tablet, but I don't see how that's of any use. It's a mobile operating system on a desktop computer. The two just don't go together for me. I can understand how it's great for a tablet and mobile devices. I just can't see any use for it on a desktop.
It throws people so far out of their comfort zone, it could be a problem. Ironically, it leaves their competitors looking more like traditional Windows than Windows does.
Yeah.
And that may actually drive some people to turn to Linux or Android if it's a tablet, or even to Apple.
That's what I've been saying all along, where I think the people that are going to benefit from this are Apple and Linux. I think a lot of people, I mean, what's your option? If you don't like Metro, what's your option? You can't turn it off. You either have to suck it up and get used to it, or you leave, you abandon Windows, which I think people are going to do. I think people like me, I'll give an example. I'm a Mac user, generally. I use Windows, of course. All my machines are Windows, and I run on Windows, but I use a Mac as my everyday computer. I had no problem picking up a Windows 7 computer and using it, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about Windows 8. I mean, I've used it, but I wasn't too happy. It was on older hardware, so I really can't tell, but until I pick it up on, a higher end machine.
Well, again, that's the whole Windows Vista issue repeating itself.
Yeah, but I mean, I could still use Vista. It didn't turn. I don't think people got turned off to the point that they jumped ship. I don't
Right.
think that was an issue with Vista. I think this could potentially be an issue where people are going to say, I don't want this. I'll just go buy a Mac. Or I'll just
play
I'll
devil's
use Linux.
advocates. Let's play devil advocates here.
Okay.
Let's say Windows 8 is popular. What happens?
It revolutionizes the way we do computing.
I mean, is that really gonna?
No, I think
Are you-
it's going to totally change what we're going to do. Let's say if it's successful, the only way, in my opinion, it's going to be a huge success is if manufacturers, OEMs, start developing these tablet hybrids where you just snap it on and you use it and you take it away and you use it as a tablet. Those will change computing. I think that will be the device that kind of changes computing, where people get used to, where when you snap it in, it's running desktop. When you pop it out, it's running Metro. That will be the way that this could
But you
change
can't,
it.
because that's never going to happen,
That's
because
not
the
gonna
way
happen.
that Microsoft has developed Windows 8 to be Metro intensive. They don't want you to use the desktop. They're like, desktop's there if you have any legacy applications, but we really want you to use the Metro interface and all this other stuff, which really does not work well on a desktop.
But you know what? It could still potentially be successful if these hybrid laptops become successful, these tablet laptops. Other than that, I don't see it happening.
But the weird thing is, I mean, they demonstrated the new, or they previewed Office 2013, which it's supposed to run for Windows RT, right? It's supposed to be run on the ARM and then come free with ARM tablets with the Microsoft Surface. Is that right? I think it is.
I'm not sure.
What was that? I'm sorry.
That the Office 2013 that they recently previewed, that is designed to run on ARM CPUs and will come free on Windows RT based tablets.
I'm not sure.
I think it will. Well, anyway, like Sunkast was saying, they're saying, don't go to the desktop, but then you have to, because Office exclusively runs in the desktop mode, even on WinRT. And the ribbon, I think, is arguably worse than it used to be. I think it's a cluttered, chaotic looking design that is going to turn off a lot of new users and even experienced users of Office and similar programs. So they're trying to have it both ways. They're going to sell you a tablet and say, oh, you need Office, flip over to the desktop mode and grab your mouse and keyboard.
I do think that it has the Windows 8. If it's not popular right off the bat, it's going to have the opportunity to improve itself over the course of its life, just like Windows Vista.
I don't know. Listen. I don't want to start bashing the product because it hasn't come out yet, but we'll see what happens with that. The new iPod Touch could match the taller screen on the iPhone. No big story there, but we're seeing glimpses of the 5th generation iPod Touch. It's going to be offering a 4-inch display along with, it's going to be coming out along with the iPhone. Will be upgraded to the A5 chip. No word on the camera. It's going to have a polished steel, stainless steel mirror design. It looks really cool. From this thing that I saw, whatever it was, it looked really, really cool. The only thing I hope is that they put a better camera in this thing. That's about it. I don't know.
Oh, on the iPod.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're not happy with the iPhone's camera? It's pretty good.
No, on the iPod Touch. I hope that they put a bigger camera. All right.
Because a lot of people see. I have a 2nd-gen iPod Touch, and I think overall it's a great device. It just lacks the fact that there's no camera and no microphone on it. So, but I mean, of course, they've remedied that in other versions. It's just not a great camera in the current iPod Touch. But then again, they didn't necessarily upgrade the iPod Touch when the new iPhone 4S came out. So you almost have a generation gap there.
Yeah, you do. No, it was a big generation gap. They just put it in white. That's all they did.
Right.
They just changed the color. All right, let's do our picks of the week, guys. This is the part of the show where Eric, myself, and Sunkast pick a tech product, hardware, software, whatever it may be, and that we like. So if you have any suggestions or you have a pick of the week, send it to us at guysfromqueens@gmail.com. Sunkast, do you want to go first this week?
Yeah, I can go first if you want.
All right, you go first this week.
You got the lower third up?
I have to pull it up because it is broken here. There we go. Oh, look at that. That was pretty fast. There you go.
All right, so I'm going to switch over to my other camera here because I have a application on my Kindle Fire that I want to show you. The Olympics start tonight. There's the opening ceremony, and there's a application that NBC has called NBC Olympics Extra, Live Extra. and it's got a whole lot of stuff in there for you if you're wanting to keep tabs on the Olympics. This is a pretty good way to do it, and it's basically the only way you can get any sort of real live streaming video of the Olympics. If you definitely want to look for live video of the Olympics, the NBC Olympics Live Extra, which is a weird name. Why is it Live Extra? That's what they're calling it. It has video that will be live. There's nothing there yet because it really hasn't started, but you can see this is the home screen here. It's got a lot of information, but it has sports on there, which is really cool. You can get a look at all the sports, and you can actually make whichever sport you want your favorite so that you can keep tabs on it, and it'll actually send you alerts. So if I go to my favorites, you can see that I already have beach volleyball favorited. And if you want, you can actually go into settings, which is really cool. And it has a lot of settings here for event alerts. You can do start 15 minutes before, 30 minutes before, and all sorts of stuff. You can even share on Facebook if you want, which is really cool. Let me go back and see some of the other screens. You can actually see the schedule, which is pretty cool. Load that up for you real quick.
Did they not air the opening ceremony for the Olympics? I saw people were complaining about that.
I don't think it started yet.
I don't know. People were saying that they're not airing it or they haven't aired it. I saw it on Twitter.
But this NBC Olympics Live Extra app is really great if you want to see video highlights, live video. It's a free application for both Android and iOS. The only catch, however, is that you have to be a cable subscriber. So if you don't have Comcast or Time Warner or something like that, you're not going to be able to get to the live video. They do have a other NBC Olympics application, which is basically the same. The only exception is that it doesn't include the live streaming stuff with it.
Very, very cool. And where can people get it?
Android App Store and the iOS App Stores.
Very, very cool. Eric, you want to go next?
Sure. My pick is a little program called Flux. It's totally free. It's totally cross-platform, OS 10, Windows, Linux, and it even says now iPhone and iPad if it's jailbroken. And I think it's also now for Android, which is pretty cool. You can find it by Googling f.lux for Flux, or it's at stereopsis.com, which is just too hard to spell, so Google Flux. It is a program that turns down not the brightness, but the color temperature of your display as the sun sets and day turns into night. And this is good for two reasons. One is it's just easier on your eyes if you have traditional style light bulbs or even compact fluorescents that are yellow tinted to resemble incandescent bulbs. Then at night, if you're up late doing work on your computer and the sun is set, you've got yellow lights in your room. Computer is a blinding blue color. It kind of hurts your eyes after a while. So this will actually, following the sunset, you key in, or actually I think now it can tell where you are based on your geolocation. And then as the sun sets for your area, your computer screen will, I don't think it dims, but it does get yellower, and you can set how yellow it gets. This is also important for maintaining a good circadian rhythm and sleep cycles. I was told one time not to look at the computer if I want to sleep better, not to stay up late on the computer, because then you're staring at this blinding blue light and your brain thinks that is sunlight because it's so blue. So this helps it turn into, I don't know what light yellow is supposed to come from at night, but it does seem to help.
It turns to
fire. Okay, yeah. Well, I've wondered about that, but did fire really have time to build into our evolutionary circadian rhythm? I'm not sure about that. But anyway, somehow it happens. Somehow yellow is more calming on the eyes and better at night. And at the very least, it matches the temperature of your incandescent lights in your room, in your living room, in your office, or wherever. So I think it's a really great tool. I've actually run it for a year, and I really like it. And I was surprised and pleased that Mountain Lion still works with it. No update required. And it's totally free, totally cross-platform, even on Linux and Windows. Flux, f.lux. Just Google that, you'll find it.
Very, very cool. My pick this week, it's a little local. It only is for people in the New York City area. There's a company here called Aereo. And it's exclusive in New York only, and it gives you over-the-air video on your iPad and mobile devices.
Aero, you mean?
What?
Aero?
Aereo.
Aero. A-E-R-O, right?
No, A-E-R-E-O.
Okay.
Aereo. So, see, you were wrong.
Is this the personal antenna?
Yes, it's a personal antenna. So pretty much what it does is it turns your mobile device into a TV, and you get over-the-air program. It's $12 a month. I got it, and I've been using it on my iPad. Right now, it's only on iOS devices, but they're adding more within the next month. They're right by me, actually. They're literally 10 minutes away from me, the company. It requires no cable. You don't need to be subscribed to anything else. And you get all the local channels, and you also get a DVR because it acts as a DVR, so you could record it, come back and watch it. It records on the cloud. You can watch on the go, HD quality. You could set your favorites, and there's no equipment. It works great. I think it's a great option. It's only in the New York area, unfortunately, and I know that they're planning on deploying more, but they just had this court issue, and they finally got approved, and they're okay to put it. But you could request an invite if you have it, and they're pretty fast. In about 3 days, you could get the service. But all your channels are on there. I think it's about over 20 local channels.
That's really cool. Did they win their court battle? I hadn't heard that.
I believe they did because it was on hold for a while. They weren't able to deploy it, and now all of a sudden they're deploying it.
That's fantastic. I really want this, but like you said, it's only in the New York area.
It's only in the New York area, but it's $12.
They have these little antennas. I saw a picture. I think someone did like a cover story about them or something. They showed like their server rack, their big equipment room, where they have these little antennas that are like the size of your finger, like, I don't know, like an inch big, I guess, even half of that, like a little microchip. And that's the actual HD television antenna, like the kind you normally put on your roof. But they've got one per customer, and that's how they get around. That's how they can legally do it because they're not a cable provider. They're not selling or rebroadcasting in mass one channel's output. This way, it's having one antenna per customer, one hard drive per customer. So essentially one DVR. It's more like you're renting an antenna than having some kind of cable TV service. So I guess I hope they did win that because that's cool. I'd like to see this roll out for more of us cord cutters or more people like me who really can't even get over-the-air TV in my area.
Yeah, no, and it works great. I have it on my iPad. It's upstairs, and I was watching it on my iPad while my wife was watching something else, and it works so good. It's perfectly clear. High-def video, and I was actually very surprised at the quality of it and the stability. I mean, very, very surprised. So it's a cool little application. Right now, again, it's only on iOS devices. I wonder if that has anything to do with the court case. I don't know. I could be, just guessing right there. But
I don't think it does.
They will be deploying it for your laptop and other, Android devices, other mobile applications. Really, really cool. We're going to be posting a link on our website to it, so if you want to sign up and get an invite, you can.
Oh wow! And Joe DeMax just posted an image from their website about how big these antennas are. I was wrong. It's actually the size of a dime. This little tiny antenna. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, here it is. Let me pull up the image. There you go. Look at that.
It can fit into it totally on a dime.
That's unbelievable. And that's my pick of the week. Erik, thank you so much for joining us. For all things Erik Lanigan, go to eriklanigan.com. Anything coming up?
Twitter.com/Erik Lanigan. I post more stuff there, some just jokes and random things that occur to me. So that one's more updated. But yeah, that's where to go.
At Erik Lanigan. Sunkast is on Twitter as well, at Sunkast on Twitter. Also, Amadeus, right, Sunkast?
Absolutely. That's my website where I like to post YouTube cover songs. People on YouTube do a lot of covers of songs out there, popular songs. I like to go find some of the best ones out there and post them on my website, Amadeus. That's spelled AMADAIS.com.
Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. Also, if you miss any portion of the show, you can catch it on our website at gfknetwork.com. Also, we replay all the time. Subscribe to us. We're on iTunes, guys. So it's a big help when you do subscribe and download every week. Until next time, see you later. And I don't know. Size of a dime.